Hello, girlfriend. How are you? I am Karen Ray. I'm the host here of the Being Brave Tour. And here we have a little audio issue going on, but we'll just keep going and hoping that it clears up. I am here with Michele Heffron, and I am so thrilled that she is here. She is, you know, how you have those friends that you call it kind of your wise friends that have all these little golden nuggets every time you go and talk with them. That's who Michele is. I love the what she is doing, and she just is so thoughtful about how she approaches life. And it really does come from the heart. So Michele is a life and relationship and divorce coach, certified calling in the one coach, podcaster, speaker, writer, getting to the heart of who you are and what you're truly meant for. Michele, welcome.
Thank you, Karen. What a beautiful introduction. I feel the same about you. So this is so mutual.
Yes, we're women of a more interesting age, and so all of our life experiences come into play, and that's what we're going to do today too, is talk a little bit about some of your life experiences, your story, if you will, what brought you here today, because that's what we're all about. We're bringing these brave conversations to the table and sharing our story along the way, and it's so amazing how women relate to it. And so I want to start off though, because Michele is going to be a feature in our January Brave magazine. And she turned in her contribution. And I'm going to read just one little thing that you have in your story because it really touched me. I had to pause when I read this. And so, ladies, I'm going to share it with you. And then we'll go into our conversation with Michele. It says, "Hello, beautiful. There's something almost being, there's something about," sorry, let's put on our glasses first.
Okay, mine too. I'm not even reading, but I'm putting them on.
There's something about being brave that we often get wrong. We think it means charging forward fearlessly, never looking back. But real bravery, it's quieter than that. It's the willingness to look at your life, really look at it, and see the truth of where you are, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Wow. Michele, I call it the what is. I now have a notebook that I have labeled what is, so I can go to the truth of my life. And so that really touched me. And I don't know if that's touching some of you other ladies, so you can just go hit your I relate button. So Michele, tell us just a little bit about where you are and how you are working with women to kind of help them come to that what is moment, that truth of where they are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Karen, thank you. That part in my story and what I wrote, I didn't always think that way. That's not how I looked at things, because I really, truly made myself oftentimes a victim in many, many ways. And my bravery then was to bull through things and make everybody else wrong or whatever it was in order for me to survive or move forward. And what I actually am learning, and now this is what I work with my own clients and people with, and really want to spread this wide and far, because I think it's a message that we all need so much, because the experiences in our lives aren't there to be problems or obstacles or bad or good. They're there to teach us a lesson. And we don't always know it, and we don't always see it. And I will say I have had to learn some lessons over and over and over. And it's unpleasant sometimes. And when you have to take a very honest look at how am I contributing to this situation, it took me a long time to even understand what that meant. Now I help people speed that process up a little bit, because I don't want people to have to fall down 6 or 7 times before they get themselves back up. But we can do it. And one of the quotes I used just today was one of my authors that I really adore is Glennon Doyle, and her whole thing about we can do hard things.
Oh, yes.
It's like, yes, we can. But and doing a hard thing sometimes means taking a very honest look at your life and understanding that to be brave is to go back within, to understand what's going on there. And it's not about what's happening on the outside, but it's what's inside of us that is making meaning of what's happening on the outside. And when we can start to get more truthful about that, then we can start to see things open up and loosen up for us in ways that we never imagined.
Isn't that something? So what is within, taking that look at what's within and then relating it to the outside world. And I love what you said, though, about speeding it up. I'm like, yes, if we could speed up those lessons and learn them, and really take them to heart, maybe we wouldn't it wouldn't be so hard, because even though there's hard circumstances, it might just be a little bit lighter load along the way. So
we make we make things so easy or hard for ourselves sometimes. We really, really do. And anytime I'm finding now that things are hard, I have to lay back and literally take a lot of a beat and go, okay, what's going to make this the most easiest, most pleasurable way and have a little fun in it? Because I know this thing needs to be done, but if I'm driving at it the way I think I need to, I'm not doing myself a real service there, because I'm making it harder. And usually, I don't know about everybody else, but usually I come to these conclusions or these things when I'm laying in bed in the morning. I'm like, oh, yeah, I could hire somebody to do that, and I don't actually need to figure it out. Because otherwise I'm constantly trying to figure everything out, and then I'm making it harder, and then I end up spending more time or money or whatever it is on something. Or anyway, so that's the way I'm learning to look at these things. And that's how I also learn from the people I work with, because I can see what's happening in their world, but I often don't relate it back to what's happening in my world.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So we're going to apply some of those concepts here when we'll hear about them in your story. You support women through some of the most defining moments of their lives: the divorce, the reinvention, the identity shifts. So I'd love to start with your story. And so what was a kind of a crossroads moment that really changed the direction of your life?
Well, gosh, what was that crossroads moment? There's been, I think, so many along the way, because I think it's been a course correct all along. But I think the one thing that really defined that next, what do I do, was my divorce about 15 years ago. And this was my second divorce. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was behaving in the patterns and the ways that I had been for so long, because I had these belief systems that I carried along with me and all these things. And there was a lot of baggage and nonsense that went along with it. But when I went through that divorce, and I went from, a pretty good life in suburbia with a big house and fancy cars and kids in private schools and stay-at-home mom, after a career, I went home and was active in the schools and in charities and all kinds of things. And then whammo, it came to the very, very clear conclusion that I was going to need to get out of this thing, because it wasn't safe, it wasn't healthy. And I didn't know a thing about what I was doing at the time, but I thought I did. You hire an attorney. Wrong. Bad thing. Bad idea for me to do that first, because I knew nothing about anything else, but I was afraid of everything. Yeah. So I had lost who I was. I think sometimes when I know your story, Karen, when you talk about becoming invisible, I became like the hired help I was like the hired help. And I didn't realize just how low I had gone, but I was on my own. I had no job. I learned I didn't have a credit card. I didn't have a bank account. And I had a daughter in college and a son who was going into middle school. And I went, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I really didn't know what I was going to do. And so I guess I punted, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start over. I don't know how. And so little by little by little, and I look at it now. So when this defining moment, maybe it was a divorce, I had a couple knocks upside the head along the way.
Right.
But it was, looking back now, I call the golden thread of my life is all these things happened, and it all led me to here. And I would never in a million years have told you I would be a coach, let alone coaching women for the most part through divorces or redefining their lives and reinventing their lives after, in more of a transformational process. But I love what I do. I mean, I get excited about this kind of work that I do. And I was never excited about anything except for maybe a new outfit or a piece of jewelry before.
Yeah. And I love what you said about a golden thread. What if we took a little different look at our lives? And as we are walking through those hard things, and I think that's what coaches and our mentors do for us. They help us see that golden thread and see those moments, those defining moments that maybe there's a lesson in there that maybe, as we're standing in that fear, because as you said that, it took me right back to some moments of fear as I was leaving what I knew to total uncertainty. I didn't have a career. I was a stay-at-home mom for 27 years. I know that feeling of like that financial, just walking out into the abyss. And it's like, what is next? What is that going to look like? But you started using that to move forward.
Yeah. And I do think I have a lot of divine guidance, and I don't always tap into it. I've learned that by tapping into that intuition and that divine guidance more and more and more, I see now that every lesson along the way, we are learning and growing. And so even right now, here we are, almost the end of the year, right? And I have some very big changes that I am embarking upon in the new year. But I have been reflective over this past year and thinking, at this time last year, I thought I knew so much.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I relate.
I had to get beat up a couple times to really understand that you never get there.
You never arrive. Yeah.
You're always on your way through it. So, that's why we're meant to live each moment at a time, right? And I'm not anywhere close to the woman I was a year ago today than I am today.
Yeah.
And I don't expect to be so next year on December 30th of 2026. I know now that I literally am standing on a cliff and I can open my wings because I know they're going to. I can leap. And I didn't feel like that at the beginning of the year. I just wrote in my journal this morning, I said, I was saying the things about the year ahead, but I wasn't really feeling them in here. And until they drop down out of here into here, they really don't come to fruition until you have to go through some muck to get there, right? And so that's
the hard part. And we learn to do hard well and accept. And so, yeah, I just, as I age and become a woman of a more interesting age, those moments, living in the moments has a whole new meaning for me. And that's what I kind of hear you saying too. It's like, you have to live in those moments to be able to go forward and to face what's next, and really, like you said, spread your wings into that uncertainty and to that unknown to see what's possible.
That's so true. And I would have countered that in the past. I wouldn't have always been open to that. And until I learned that it's okay not to know everything.
Yes. I have a hard one with that because I really am a planner myself. And so, yes, to just kind of accept and going forward. So, Michele, as you to reflecting on your story, but what kind of what brought you here to today, what is kind of one of those lessons that you learned that you are still implementing today that you kind of go, yeah, you know what, that was my book of proof and I did that, and so I can go forward? What's something that comes to mind from your story?
I think from my story is the understanding that to continue to learn and grow is what helps us expand and become who we're meant to be, because it's a constant learning about our own selves. And I think the other one is really thinking that when people come into our lives, there's usually a reason for all of that. Yeah. And we don't always know what it is. They could be somebody who's meant to be there for a long time. They could be somebody who's really irritating as hell, but they're there to teach you something about yourself because they're irritating you for a reason, and it usually has a reflection upon you. And I don't like that, but I'm learning that that is part of it. So I had to really look at, like my ex-husband, for instance, because I was really angry for a very long time over that. And it's not that he didn't do terrible things, because he did, but it's also that I don't have to hang on to that anymore.
Yeah.
And I needed to learn something about myself in that. And that is one of the patterns that for me that I've had to learn over and over again, Karen, is that there's ways we behave in our relationships. And it has a lot to do with the patterns that we have created in our lives. And it's starting to get a lot more clear about when I need a pattern interrupt. And
that's when you need a girlfriend to come tap you on the shoulder. And so I'm wondering, the ladies listening, what is your kind of your pattern that needs an interruption that keeps coming back?
For me? Oh my gosh. Okay. So, and I get real deep in some of this because it's not that I'm not a therapist and I'm not licensed in that, but I go through and I study so much of this and understand how our psychologies are built and all of that. And one of the things is when we start talking about our attachment styles and how we operate, and most of it is ingrained in us when we were in childhood. And I had to get really, really clear about how I was showing up in relationships in the way that if I didn't feel safe or secure, I would be one of these people who was like, I want this, but as soon as anything goes wrong, I'm out the door or I'll back off. And so it was always this constant not allowing my own heart to be exposed because I was always protecting it. And until we can get very vulnerable in our own skin and learn how to love ourselves, which has been the trick for me. I don't know about any of the other ladies who listen to this, but loving ourselves is what has to come first before anybody else can truly, truly know us and love us. And that takes some work.
That does take some work. And to also, around that too, I have always, what does that really look like? What does that, because I think I wasn't, and now, so I had to reframe that word because that word just didn't resonate.
Right.
So for me, what it looked like is I had to honor who I am.
Yes.
And so that to me speaks to me be in relationships. It's kind of like you got to find the words that work for you, that your mind and heart understand.
Right. I was just on with a client and I've been working with her for over a year and a half. And it's come so long because when I say that people come into our life for there's a reason.
Mhm.
This particular person I'd known since we were 14 years old. And I know, and it was just a fluke that all of this stuff kind of came down in her life. And I was the first person she called. And I was like, and I wouldn't have been the likely suspect. And so what I learned in that whole thing, we were just talking about that part today, is it takes some time to go through and identify what part of us isn't crazy about ourselves, who isn't honoring ourselves.
Yeah.
And understanding why that is. It wasn't because of my ex-husband, or it wasn't because of this, that, or the other things. What it was, the meaning I was making out of that. But then you have to take that another step further. And there's all these kind of steps along the way. And it's really about, unraveling so you can rebuild. And we often want quick fixes in life.
Yes.
And we are, even at our age, Karen, of the Amazon era. I order it today and it's here in an hour. And so that doesn't work when we are working on our own selves. And when it comes to honoring ourselves or developing a healthy, happy relationship with ourselves, it takes a little longer, and it takes commitment, and it takes persistence. And it cannot be one of those things that gets tucked away on a Saturday afternoon or read in a book, because the application is way different than the intellectualization of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us say, oh, I read that. I know that. Well, yeah, I said that for years, but I was still doing the same stuff, and I was still having the same bad stuff happen to me. And so
Oh my gosh. So these different patterns, these different patterns that we have. I love what you said too about unraveling to rebuild. You got to unravel it all and kind of come to, like you said, to the truth of that, how we started this conversation, really coming to the truth, to what your truth is, who you are.
Yeah.
Even when it's uncomfortable. And there's, those pieces, Michele, that, gosh, it's hard to look at ourselves sometimes because you don't want to admit that you're like that.
Yeah. So what I now incorporate more into my life, Karen, and this is what I love about you. You're always smiling and you're always laughing, because if you have some fun with yourself,
Yes,
you can get really good at saying, and laughing at yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And saying, you know what, I don't have to be so damn serious all the time. I mean, I feel like I was one of those people who was born with 11s in my forehead here,
Yeah.
I had this picture on my desk. You can't even see it, but I'm like 8 years old or something. And it's Easter. I'm all dressed up. I look so cute, but I have a frown on my face with 11s in there. And it was like, oh my gosh, I was 8 and I had 11s in my forehead. Oh. They probably invented Botox for me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And all those things that we grow up with. It's just amazing. I know. So one of the patterns that kind of keeps showing up in my life is that just kind of, I finally kind of put a little word around, or some words around it, is I have a voice and I need to use it.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, when I faced things, I would just be quiet. I'd let everybody else tell me how I felt, what I needed to do, all these things. And that's in my marriage too. I did not use my voice.
Yeah.
I didn't say who I was. I was trying, so people pleasing. And I know a lot of ladies might relate to some of that, but yes. So you come through your story. You're here today. We're looking at the truth. You're helping women walk through some of those really difficult situations, helping them to find their own golden thread and to weave those pieces, that tapestry together. So what I'm really excited about is that as we bring this magazine, the Brave magazine, together, women like you are coming and giving these women that I'm holding up my hands like a little gift. We're giving them a gift to take that one brave step. Yes. They can be sitting on the couch with their cup of tea and a little candle lit and walking through this. So just give them a little idea of what you will be providing for them in January in the Brave magazine. Just a little sneak peek, if you will.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. Recently, I think about the work I do and how I believe that when we're going through any kind of a major transition in life, that really it's not just kind of getting through to the other end and surviving through it. It's really about how do you thrive and what does that even mean? And for
Right.
me, it turned out, it's really about, and this might be an overused words in some way, but transformation. I do think of metaphors often like with butterflies, and we start out over here, but the idea is we go through some discomfort and then we open up to what's more true for us. And in the framework that I offer in the magazine, I call it vivid with vivid cubed. So the D is cubed, and it's being able to operate or establish what your values are in any moment. I mean, you could do this for anything simple or something big. But like if you're planning, this is a simple thing. Like if you're planning a vacation, what are the values what do you value on vacation? Well, some people like to camp, but not me. And so, so it's basing things on what your values are. Do you want to walk a lot, or do you want to get on a boat, or whatever it is? And then you set some intention around that. So when we get clear on our values and then we put an intention about what do we want this whole thing to be, how do we want this to feel to ourselves? And it's about the feelings and how do we want to experience this next thing. So, and for instance, if you're going through a divorce, I think there's nothing more relevant than doing something like this to start with, not the outcome or who gets the house or all these other things. Is how do you want to start this? Let's create some values. Let's set an intention. Let's create a vision. And when you have a North Star, then you have something you're shooting for all the time, rather than floundering around out there filing paperwork that you don't even know is relevant or not. And then you get to the I is an important one, because in any kind of a transition in life, you are recreating an identity. You're shedding an old identity, stepping into a new one. But you get to decide who that identity is. It's like you finding your voice, Karen, and saying, I got a voice and I can use it. That's not who you used to identify as, right?
Not at all.
Right. And I didn't either. I mean, using my voice and doing what I'm doing today is like unheard of in my mind. And I was in the theater. I didn't do any of this sort of stuff. And then when we get to the D's, then you can start really discerning what you've come up with here. You can make decisions that are based on values, intentions, vision, and identity. And then you can go in the direction you are meant to go in.
Yeah.
And this is why this framework for me is something any of us can use for almost any circumstance in our life. And sometimes we need help, because sometimes what I find I worked with coaches for years and still do. It's having some kind of accountability and direction and eyes on stuff that I don't see, because I have a lot of blind spots. I don't know about you, but I do. And when I can get open to those now more easily, I'm not so sewn or glued to what I think I know anymore. I'm open. And when I find myself closing in, I have to take a pause and go, oh my gosh, that would have been the old thing I would have said. I would have said that's not possible because, and now I have to say, okay, perhaps this is possible. Show me how.
Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. I love this framework. One, it's so timely for the beginning of the year, but it can be used for any type of situation. I'm so excited to walk through it. When I saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. This is going to be so fun. Because it's a little different look at things. When we're setting goals or looking at our life, we don't always identify our values. And I think you said something really key here, is that working with a coach or a mentor, whatever that looks like for you, they can sometimes also hear what you are saying and draw from that, those things, like you said, that we don't see ourselves. They can see sometimes more in us than what we can see, and help us to also discover and to go a little deeper. And I think that's one of the things that you are so good at, is that you ask those right questions of helping us to kind of open up a bit and go, oh, is that really what I feel? Or is it something even more?
Right, right. Yeah, it's easy for us to, like, even in our stories or something that's going on, and we glaze over things. And sometimes for me, I can stop people and go, wait, that thing you just said right there,
Yeah.
let's back up and unpack that a little bit, because I think that has more to do with the overall picture than you might realize. And I was the queen of glazing over things, because if it felt uncomfortable, I was going to skate over the top of it.
Oh yeah, why deal with that? It's like we can just sit over there.
and learning how not to justify or make excuses or
create a story around it.
yes, and so much. It's so interesting. One of the things I was just reading today is, as we get older, it's through wisdom. Wisdom doesn't come because you're old or you have lines on your face or any of that thing. Wisdom comes when you learn how to speak less and hear more.
Yeah.
And that's pretty meaningful, right?
Yes. Wow. That is great. Yes. Listening more and learning from it, being curious about it.
And that includes the voice inside, because you cannot hear that voice if you're yakking at it all the time.
Oh my.
So
Wow.
that message, that internal thing that's always going on up there, it's like a cluttering your closet up, and you can't fit anything new in there. So nothing can come from that voice within if the voice up here is always chattering. So it's about quieting this thing down.
Yeah.
And
yes. Yeah. So as we close out, kind of a reflection question for the ladies out there listening. So especially with what you just said too, and just I think it just goes right with it. If a woman is listening and wondering just one place to begin, where would you invite her to start?
Gosh, where would I invite her? So, well, I guess I would invite her to check out the Vivid framework, just to start to look at things. But I think it's making a decision that you want to do something. You want to take a step to make a change. Just making a decision sometimes just sets you in the direction of taking the next step. And the other piece of it is sometimes is just asking yourself, what do I want?
Yeah. So one of the things that I heard you say is, and I just love this, listening to yourself. That might be a first start for me, is listening to me. So what does that look like? Can you just,
Yeah.
if you're sitting there and you're that mind chatter's going, you've got all these things going, what would you recommend for the woman who just needs to maybe sit for a second and listen to herself? How does that happen?
I think there's a couple things you can do. I think one of the best things you can do is get yourself out of your environment, just even for a 10-minute walk around the block, without headphones on or without your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Like no phone, no video, no selfies, no look, I'm doing this. It's really about, this is your time, not your time to share with the world what you're doing. It's your time and listen. And I find it easier to have a question to ask yourself.
Ooh.
Because I think sometimes we don't know how to grab the thoughts that are going across when we're meant to grab them. So this is practice. So it's taking that first step, is making a decision, and then just taking yourself out of your environment for just even 10 minutes. It took me a long time to get to there, but I do try to incorporate daily meditation, and sometimes they're guided and sometimes they're quiet, but it's really about just being very quiet in the mornings. I also, another little tiny thing, because some things work for some people, things don't. So you have to find what works for you. But I find laying in bed or laying in the bathtub with my eyes closed, but in the morning, I won't allow myself to get up just when I'm ready to. I make myself lay back down and just think about the day ahead or what it is that I might have an intention for, or I remind myself that I'm going to greet the day with love in my heart, or just one thing you say, or I will persist, because all of this is great if you start, but the idea is to continue to take the next step, the next step, the next step.
Yeah, I love that. What a great thought to end on. Ladies, we are here taking those next steps together. We're bringing women like Michele, sharing our stories, and helping you to take your next best step and what that might look like for you. We are here for you. We're here for the conversation. And Michele, thank you for joining us today. I so appreciate you coming in and sharing with us.
Karen, thank you. I love you. So thank you.
All right, ladies, we'll see you next time on the Being Brave Tour.